production car has to be heavily modified. The technical part of the team is Paul Bickers and Brian Naunton. They know all about the strengths and weaknesses of the car.
We change the fuel tank in as much as I don't want to have gallons and gallons of fuel sloshing about. If we do have an accident and a fuel tank split, I could have been an inferno. We don't want that set up, so we place in a much thicker fuel tank with a much smaller amount of fuel.
The small aluminum tank holds only a couple of pints of gasoline and can survive even the most severe impact without splitting open. A custom-built roll cage will protect the driver.
I would say if you told me I could only have one of the various safety features, I would probably say the full roll cage, because that's the only thing that keeps the part of the car that you're in from collapsing with the rest of it.
The roll cage is constructed from 3-inch steel tubing. It's shaped and welded to the car body.
You cocoon the driver in a safe area, i.e. you put a roll cage all around him, so that whilst the car is breaking up around that, the area within that is held in one piece.
If the car hadn't been fitted with a roll cage and the type of impact the roof would take, there's a pretty good chance the roof would come down probably on top of the driver.
All loose or sharp objects are removed from the interior so they won't impale the driver.
A normal car battery is full of acid, and to have it under the bonnet is a bit of a risk, really. If that gets smashed or damaged under there, there's going to be acid everywhere, and there's also a chance of fire if the battery shorts out under the bonnet. And that's the reason why we put in this steel box in here, which is fully clamped in and bolted into the car. And we also have this isolator switch here, which can quickly turn the power off if need be.
Finally, a special Kevlar seat with a 5-point harness is bolted directly to the floor.
We've done as many safety things to the car as we can to make the stunt go as good as it can, really. It's now over to the driver.
With the car prepared, it's up to Lee Shewood. Now his safety is in his own hands.
What we're about to do is inherently dangerous. There is an element of risk, and I'd be mad to get in the car and do what we're about to do if I wasn't cautious about what we're doing.
If you'd like to go to your number one position, please.
This commercial.
Shewood lines up the car for one final check.
That's not bad. You can come a couple of inches that way if you want. You can do a couple this way.
Okay.
You happy?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, do you want to have a
But
run?
there's a lot of things can go through your head prior to the job. Once you actually set off, there's not a lot you can do. Once you've hit that ramp, you're in for a rough ride. It's a matter of setting it up properly beforehand. I've got a habit of blinking a lot, but as soon as I actually set off, there's a long period of quiet. The whole thing goes quiet. You just concentrate on what you're doing. Once you hit the ramp, you hold on tight.
It's the moment of truth. The roll cage does its job. Shewood's body is thrown violently around, But because he's strapped in so tightly, no part of his body hits the side of the car.
Good.
Well done, lovely one.
All right.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Should we just roll it straight off his wheels, or are you...
Hang on, leave it for a sec. I'll get told for this. I'm sorry.
How do you feel? No headaches, no nothing? Good.
But no, I'm fine. Just takes a few seconds just to steady yourself. That's why I let the boys not turn me back straight away.
We do this to be safe, but the chances are if you did a crash of that nature for real on the road and you were an ordinary driver in an ordinary car without a roll cage, without a proper safety harness system, there's 90% chance that you would be dead.
I'm much more concerned about driving home from the job, be it on the M25 or any other road in England, than I would be actually performing a stunt. The general public don't realise how vulnerable they are in a vehicle, where when we're performing stunts or action sequences on film and television, we have the best people around, the cars are prepared, the people are experienced, and you're expecting it to happen. On the open roads, you're not expecting it to happen.
With the right car, it's possible to survive a crash at several hundred miles per hour. Like stunt drivers, drag racers take calculated risks. These are the fastest cars on the planet.
The difference between a production road vehicle and a drag racing vehicle.
Drag cars are the most powerful cars in the world. They're driven for speed, but they're designed for safety.
Driving a top fuel dragster, accelerating at over 320 miles an hour in less than 4.5 seconds and a quarter mile is very similar to being shot from a cannon.
With all that power, crashes are inevitable. Yet these drivers are rarely hurt.
These cars are in fact designed to crash and catch on fire. The cars are designed in such a way that the ultimate purpose of the chassis is to protect the driver in the event of an accident, an upset, or a collision.
The driver is protected inside a rigid safety cell. To absorb the impact of a crash, the frame is constructed of separate units that break off in stages. Gary Skeltzy is the two-time top fuel at over 300 miles per hour.
Well, the car was traveling at close to a world's record pace. All of a sudden, there was no warning. The car just exploded. At that point, the car broke in half behind the driver's compartment, and I went into the guardrail. And at that time, I saw a huge rear wheel right next to my roll cage. Didn't know what that was. At that point, I caught on fire. Then I thought I was in real trouble. I thought, man, you made it through those two difficult situations. Now you're going to burn. Adrenaline is pumping so high that your sweat actually boils inside of a fire suit. Fortunately, the car stopped. The safety safari was on me immediately, and I crawled out from the wreckage. It didn't get a mark on me except a little bruise on my legs.
As soon as the engine explosion occurred, the car started to break apart, and after it contacted the guardrail, major components of the car were shed, and all that was basically left was the driver's protective cage, and thanks to that, there was no threat from fire, the kinetic energy had been dissipated, and fortunately, Gary was able to walk away.
everything broke away the way it was supposed to, and that saved my life, probably. A strange